Hello, this is Arturelia Anime Room Reviews. I'm Arturo, and today I'll be reviewing Now, I'm not going to even bother trying to remember what the title is called. It's a French name with the main character's name in it. Well, this was around the same time I was watching Angel Beats. And this show had to do with the 18th century France during Louis XV's era. And, you know, I watched it and I was really interested in it because I'm a history junkie and I like history. But after it was done, would it be something that I would think was good, great, or okay, or better yet, just something I wouldn't really come back to again? Well, that's why you're here. Today I'll be giving my opinion about this show, how I felt about it, and if it's worth it. Let's go. How the story starts us off is a woman's body in a casket floating down a river place somewhere in Paris. D'Eon finds out that it was his sister's body, and he vows to find the killer, whoever did this to her. But besides that, there are other things going on that also tie into things about her murder. And with other involvements going around, he gets involved in this big plot, and he journeys from Russia to England. And he gets 3 companions to tag along on his journey. And overall, the plot really has to do with supernatural stuff and religion and the royal family, Louis XV, conspiracy stuff, and also about the Psalm, which has supernatural power. The plot was good from beginning, but I feel like when it hit episode 23, I'm not sure. I mean, back then, after I finished watching it, I felt like it was But recently, when I skimmed through each episode, a quick skim through just to see and refresh my mind, what do I think about it now? Well, I don't think it's bad, but I kind of felt like maybe it didn't have to go that route by episode 23. Even before that episode, the story was kind of leading more towards a mysterious order in one of the episodes for one of the characters, and it made you suspect something, but I don't know, maybe I'm just looking into it way too much. The music was okay. I don't know if it will be memorable. Maybe there are a few, but I actually believe the opening and ending music for this anime is really awesome. Now, when it comes to me being a history junkie, I will say, even though the story and plot take place in 1742, there were things in the story that actually happened after that year, 1742. Like, the real guy actually went to Russia, like in 56, but they put all the events in this one year in the plot. I don't mind the alternate change. I mean, I would like to see maybe, you know, them stick with the real timeline of history, but I don't mind the alternate route that they took. It's fiction, so. And what's also interesting is that since this is before the French Revolution, there's like this group called the Revolutionary Brethren, because this also ties into later the French Revolution in the story. And the one big issue I would have with the story being set in 1742, apparently Big Ben shows up, and that wasn't made until like 1850s, Big Ben. Just putting a correction there, that's not when it was made. The animation is quite different, so you know, I don't know if you'll have mixed feelings about it, but overall it's not bad. It actually has nice animation scenes and good action scenes as well, detailed nicely. Now, as for the characters, D'Eon de Beaumont is based off of a real guy at the time, like I mentioned. Though in the show, most of the stuff that happens to him is fiction, and not to mention in real life he dressed up as a woman, and in the anime we understand why he dresses up as a woman. Now we know the truth. But in the very first beginning of episode 1, we see that his sister's soul is like in him as a vessel. So now him and her are traveling together and her soul is with him. She can only be put to peace until they find out who killed her. The one thing I didn't understand about one scene with him was like,
what? What?
So overall, he's, you know, your type of character that fights for what is right and for his country, and solved his sister's murder. Robin is a young kid who works for the Queen and is assigned to help D'Eon on his quest to find the truth. He's young, he's smart, and he's also an orphan, and he usually just uses a gun. And at the very end, we reveal something about Robin that is like, well, if you know your history, then it would be a shocker. And then for other characters, we have real life characters like the King, Queen of France, or England, her, him, etc. Durand, first mysterious, he looks like that type of mysterious character, and then an ally to the other characters. He was also a lover of D'Eon's sister. He is also loyal to the king and his allies. Telegor used to be D'Eon and his sister's master, who taught them how to fence. And obviously, he is also loyal to the king. They're basically all considered the musketeers. And he is also well trained since he's a veteran. He's very skilled with sword fights. What was interesting while writing this review is that they used Anthony Hopkins from Mask of Zorro just to make the character design for this character. The one thing about his character near the end was like, what? They kind of made him do this switch, which may catch you off guard. I mean, they explain why in the story. Anna is a childhood friend of D'Eon and a fiance. She works at the palace. She also looks out for Louis XVI. She's kind and soft-spoken. Then we have the villains, who are going to do anything they can to stop the good guys and get what they want. And I don't really want to go much into details of every other character because then that would just take forever and I don't want to spoil it. Now, as for my enjoyment, now this is the point where it all counts now, is that I did enjoy the episodes from beginning until episode 23. The last part of episode 22 and then up to 23, it's like, why did they go for the route that these real, actual historical characters took for the story? I mean, I don't mind that like some historical people are involved in fiction, but I didn't really, I don't know. It just depends. I mean, it did have an interesting ending, and in truth, with how the real guy ended up doing after everything that happened in this at the end of the story, and why one particular thing had to happen to one character in episode 23, but the execution to what happened to this certain character was dumb. And I'm a history junkie. I like history no matter what. I don't mind learning anything about history. See, and this is an anime that was, you know, caught my attention because it was set in a time period that was interesting. But this show, I don't think it would really be something I would come back to for another run. I mean, it's more of a show that's a fun ride and then you move on. That sort of thing. Sometimes I feel like, I felt like I was a little confused with things that they were explaining about the psalm, maybe tying into certain things. It just all had to relate to one thing that ended up coming around at the very end. But overall, I did like that it was set in an 18th century France, because I don't really see much of those in anime.
We shall leave the rest up to you, Sir D'Eon. As for us, we will take a nap and await.
I can't pronounce the name because it's in French, but you know, I'm really conflicted how to rate this anime because I have different opinions about it. Overall, it was interesting. I learned the real life guy in a sense, but after it was done, I just moved on after that. I mean, it did have nice animation. It did have an interesting plot until we kind of got, well, like I've mentioned already. And, you know, a cast that was interesting. But I guess the type of show it is, I don't know. I think I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's okay leading up to being good. But just because it's not something I would come back to again just to watch it. there are other better animes out there that I would probably rather watch again. And you know, it's different since it's set in France. And you know, usually anime is set in Japan. I mean, we get animes here and there that are set in different other countries, but you know, it's different, so you may have a fun time watching it. Well, I'm going to recommend anime that obviously are not set in Japan, like since this was not set in Japan, it was set in France. So let's see. I can think of Michiko and Hatchin, set somewhere in South America. Then there's El Cazador de la Bruja, that is set in Mexico. And last but not least, the Hellsing series, that is only set in Britain. So you may find something in here that will interest you that is set somewhere else. Well, this is Arturelia Anime Room Reviews signing off.